So we just keep moving with all these wonderful speakers who are gifts to us. I feel like when I was a little girl on Christmas morning and I'm running down the stairs and everything is there. I share with you today a gift as I introduce Ellen Szabo, our next speaker. The Family Caregiver Center discovered Ellen 3 years ago when I embarked on a mission to find someone who could help us introduce and offer writing and journaling to our caregivers as a tool for coping and self-discovery, as well as a means for self-care. I came across Ellen's name through a summer writing series she had done annually at the University of Iowa. Even though she resides in the Boston, Massachusetts area, I took a chance that she would respond to my email and maybe know of a local resource that I could pursue. Ellen responded to my email within 10 minutes and indicated that she was interested in learning more. As our conversation continued, we tapped into our creative juices and decided to try a hybrid 8-week journaling workshop. Then, as the saying goes, the rest is history. We just finished our 3rd annual 8-week journaling workshop. This past spring and summer, Ellen also guided us through a 3-week poetry writing experience and a summer memoir writing 5-session workshop. It has been my pleasure and privilege to co-facilitate these workshops with Ellen. She joins us via Zoom, as well as other caregivers, center volunteers, and people living with chronic conditions who choose to join us virtually. I am with others who are able to come to the Caregiver Center in person. Ellen inspires us and nurtures us every time we meet. Those who sign up with some skepticism and self-doubt are quickly drawn in by Ellen's no rules approach. There is such kindness and trust that happens as the participants in these workshops discover their superpowers and begin to hold themselves dear through the tenderness of the words they have found the courage to write and sometimes even read aloud. Ellen's inspiration and creativity have been such a beacon for our community. I am thrilled beyond measure that she is here with us today to talk about happiness.
Well, 30 years ago, if someone had told me that I would be standing up here talking about how to be happy, I would not have believed them. I would have actually thought they were out of their mind. I grew up in a family that did not have a vocabulary for happiness. And as I tell everyone that I work with, we are all stories. We are 100% stories. I am a story. I am a different story than the story I learned in my childhood from my family of origin. So let's see if I can figure out how to operate this thing. Okay, I want to start with this quote, which was a life changer for me. Everyone thinks that they want happiness, but they might not. They might rather keep their stories about who they are and about what is impossible. Happiness is not an add-on to what you already are. It requires you to become a different person from the one who set off seeking it. And that's from John Tarrant's Bring Me the Rhinoceros and other Zen koans that will save your life. So the woman that you're looking at right now is a very different woman from the woman who was driving here a few days ago, 3-day drive. A different woman from who I was 3 weeks ago, 3 years ago, 30 years ago. What I've discovered is that because I am a story, I can change who I am and I can find happiness by changing the stories that I believe. Our stories about what is impossible matter. They make us who we are. So the stories we live become the stories we tell, and the stories we tell become the stories we live. Happiness is a practice. It's not about luck or circumstance or certainty. And this is why happiness is complicated. It is a practice, it's not a destination. And it changes for me all the time. There are times when I think I can't possibly be happy again. And then I just think I need to write. Creative writing is how I found happiness. And it's how I work with everyone that I work with. Talking, teaching, coaching about how to change our stories. So about 14 years ago, my oldest son got married, and I saw my ex-husband for the first time in a long time. And luckily we had maintained a good friendship. And he asked me how I was. And I had had a very, very high stress job for about 10 years. And I also had pretty high stress life, very difficult times. And when he asked me this, because we had known each other for so long and he was such a dear friend, I told him the truth. Normally I say, I'm fine, but I told him the truth. I said, I'm fine, except for my inner apocalypse. And when the words came out, I just thought, oh my God, what did I just say? I think that's the truth. And so I looked up the word apocalypse, and I discovered that it comes from the Greek word apocalypsis, which means revelation and unveiling of what would otherwise be concealed. So I began writing to understand what was that apocalypse inside of me. So I began creative writing to externalize my inner apocalypse. And I have to confess to all of you, I was coaching and teaching and seeing individual clients and telling them all these things, and I was not doing it myself. I'm such a terrible person. So, but I want to tell those of you that have been taking workshops with me, I am doing it now, so it's for real. So expressing what is inside us can help us to uncover, understand, and transform our perspective, keeping in mind all the time that I am a story. I am the story I tell myself. I am the story that other people tell me. I'm the story that I absorb. So writing our stories is a path to transformation and well-being. And I have to tell you that I love my parents very much, and they were very, very unhappy people. And what they both believed, and they taught me, and it was my story for many years, is that you can only be happy if you have no clue what's really going on. And so obviously, in order to become happy, I had to change that story. It was hard. And I emphasize to people, I struggle with this every day because my old story wants to come back all the time. But it's the people that I work with and the people that I surround myself with who remind me every day that actually it's not true, that you can know what's going on and you can still be happy. So, and again, I want to emphasize all of this came about for me because of creative writing. I started writing when I was really little, and then I wanted to fix my family. Of course, that's why we all go into psychology and social work. Well, I should speak for myself. That's why I went in. And I discovered very quickly I couldn't fix them, but I could do something about myself. But intuitively, I combined creative writing and therapy. And pretty soon, I discovered that therapy's great, but I discovered that I was getting more benefit from a combination of creative writing and therapy, and my clients, the same thing, that creating our new stories, rewriting our stories, changing the meaning of our stories made a huge difference. So writing can help to externalize our inner apocalypse. Let's see if I can make this work. So if you write enough, you can get your apocalypse, you can externalize your inner apocalypse, and life is great, sometimes. Mr. Rogers is one of my heroes. I adore him. He helped me raise my 3 boys, for which I'm very grateful. I don't know him personally. This was just on television. But one of my favorite quotes of his is he said, love is a verb. And I say happiness is a verb. It's a practice. I have to practice it through creative writing every day. We can only be as happy as the stories we believe. Creative writing can help us to make meaning of our stories and to facilitate healing. And one of the struggles I had all through school, in my undergrad and graduate work, was that I couldn't prove any of this. I just had these anecdotal stories. I knew it was working. It was working for me, and it was working for all of my clients, where it was helping them with trauma, it was helping them with sorrow and loneliness. And I kept trying to do research projects on it, and none of my professors, they just weren't buying it. So imagine my joy when I didn't discover until quite a bit later, that in the 80s, there were actually studies being done on the effects of creative, expressive writing on mental and physical health, and it actually improved well-being. And there are theories, two of the books that I discovered that just filled me with joy, because I'm not a researcher, but here were these two groups of people who were working on, so they were Michael White and David Epstein were developing these theories, narrative theory and practice, and they were incorporating creative writing strategies and literature strategies into the therapy practice. And I thought, oh my gosh, somebody else is doing this. I'm so excited. And then, then I learned about James Pennebaker years later when I was in graduate school. And I discovered that I read his books, and I was so thrilled to find that he was finding that when people are given the opportunity to write about emotional upheavals, they often experience improved health. And one thing I discovered, I spent 10 years, I was the director of a domestic violence and sex assault agency. And what I discovered was that the women and children coming into the safe house, they were having to repeat their stories over and over and over again, and it was just re-traumatizing. And I began to wonder what would happen if I had them write fiction. And I couldn't do it there because it would be a dual role for me. I was the director of the agency. But after my acknowledgement to my ex-husband that I had this inner apocalypse, I decided to change everything. That was about 14 years ago. I left my job and I moved to Gloucester, Massachusetts, and I focused on creative writing to feel better. And that was when I began really reading Pennebaker's work and incorporating this idea that if we look at our stories, we write our stories, we can actually not re-traumatize ourselves by writing fiction. And I was writing fiction for years because I couldn't tolerate writing my own story. It was too much. But writing fiction was a blast. I got to control the story. I got to bring meaning to it. And I'll confess, some people died in my story. Some terrible deaths. Because I want people to think I'm a nice person, I did destroy those stories. You'll never find them anywhere. People that have taken my class know that I have a wood-burning stove, and that's where a lot of my writing goes. So I've confessed a lot more to you than I thought I would. Okay, so our sense of self is mutable, shaped by context and perspective. That's so important. By what we are aware of and what is unconscious, and by what others tell us and what we tell ourselves. And I want to make sure I still have a few more minutes. So what I also discovered is that free writing is really important, because when we can get out of our own way. So when I was brought up by academics, and I was an academic for many years, and thinking wrecks me. So I thought free writing is going to be, what a way to get, it really is free. So I started just free writing to see what would happen. This is also long after I was telling my clients to do it and saying it really works. But it really did work for them. And I thought, well, I guess I'm going to try it for myself. So I did. And I loved the stories that came out. I thought, I had no idea it was my unconscious. I tell people, our unconscious is our genius. That's where all the brilliance comes. That's where all the most fabulous stories come. The dark ones, the light ones, the ones that set us free. So I recommend everybody do free writing. So writing can facilitate healing through emotional expression and meaning making. Making meaning of our stories is essential. And I've noticed over the years that the meaning that I attribute to stories from when I was younger, those meanings have changed over time as I make happiness a practice. It's a hard practice sometimes. And there are weeks and months when I just think I forgot how to do it. But all the time, I'm working with my clients who they kind of save me, because when I can't do it myself, I hear their stories and I feel their stories changing. And it reminds me that what I'm telling people actually works, even at times when I think it won't work for me. So there's this happiness quote again. I love, love, love this quote. And I won't read it again, but I just want to say that for me, creative writing, and for the clients that I have, changes what is possible. It changes what is impossible. I had such a belief system about what was impossible, and it was making me physically sick and mentally sick and emotionally sick. And by creative writing, I found a way to change what I believed was possible. And so you're looking at a woman who is very different from the woman, even who woke up this morning. I was in kind of a dark mood this morning. I started writing. I wrote for about a half an hour, and I thought, okay, I can do this. Also, I was super nervous, and I'm wearing my red stress boots. Somebody said red was their stress color, and I thought, well, that's perfect. I'm wearing my red boots. So I think that's all I've got. Kathy, am I right on time? Yes? Yay, okay.